Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a tag. This is the I am a reader tag, and it originated with Penguin Random House. All right, the reason we're doing this tag today, even though I think it's pretty old, right? The reason we're doing this tag today is because I'm doing a little bit of content ahead of Read Across America Day. You guys, I'm reading from notes because I'm ancient, my brain is scattered, but there's just a couple things I'm trying to get accomplished this morning ahead of Read Across America Day and Read Across America Week. Before we dive into the tag, I'm going to concentrate on Read Across America Day. That is, it happens on March 2nd because that is Dr. Seuss's birthday. Where's my Dr. Seuss book that I wanted to show you? I grabbed the Lorax. It's going to have a huge glare, right? So let's get the glare off of it. There we go. The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. This is the one I'm recommending this year because of the trees and the conservation and environmental message in the Lorax. This is one of those that I think is awesome. There we go. Everyone out there is familiar with the story of the Lorax. You know, they made it into a movie, right? There was a little film. So even those people who don't read Dr. Seuss and haven't read this book for some reason, saw the movie, we're all familiar with the story and the awesomeness of the Lorax. I can highly recommend that for Read Across America Day. I noticed that in the marketing stuff for Read Across America Day, a lot of the prompts and a lot of the ideas are geared toward children, which I think is awesome and great. Teaching kids to read, teaching kids to want to read and to have a passion for reading is good. That is only a good, positive thing. So I grabbed some like children's books to show you guys and to recommend. Oh, and my parrots agree. The parrots agree that reading is great. Teach children to read. Although, you know, obviously here on this channel, I recommend books and I review books that are for like middle grade, young adults, and adults. I don't usually focus on children's books on this channel. I just don't. This is not a children's channel. But today, because of Read Across America Day content, we're also going to talk a little bit about kids' books. And another one that I want to recommend is The Lonely Parrot. I'm trying to make sure there's no glare on that one. The Lonely Parrot, and this one is by Lisa Kelly. It's illustrated by Charles Akins. And I'll go ahead and show you something inside here, a page inside here, so you can see the Lonely Parrot. His name is Jojo. Can you see him up there in his little cage, being lonely? His name is Jojo, and this is based on a real story about a real parrot named Jojo. And I'm going to stop talking about it before I burst into tears because, you know, back when I did a parrot magazine, I knew the people. I knew Jojo, and this is a good story for kids to hear and to understand the importance of long-term pets. Okay, a parrot lives a long time. I wish they lived longer. Parrots live a long time, and in fact, Winston, who you have seen here on camera, we believe he's in his 30s. Just from the background that we know about him, we think he's in his 30s, and he's going to live a lot longer. Doggone it, he's going to live forever. If I can keep him going, he's going to live forever. Yeah, parrots live a long time. And anyway, the Lonely Parrot is a good story to help kids understand just some of the responsibilities that come with having a pet, especially a pet that lives a long time, like a parrot. Okay, the next book that I was going to show you guys is Jennifer Adams has written a series of books that follow a raven, and his name is Edgar. Look at how cute and adorable this little book is. There's a whole series of them, and this is Edgar and the Tree House of Usher. This series is adorable. It's a board book, so it's for little kids, right? And you would start out by reading this to your little kid. But I think it is just absolutely brilliant the way this is done because, I mean, look at this, right? Look at those cute drawings. Look how cute those little birds are. Oh my word. I love this. I love everything about this. And it's not just letting you read to your little kid, it's getting your little kid interested in Edgar Allan Poe in a cute way. I freaking love this series. Got it on the children's bookshelf over there. Well, I've got 3 of them on the children's bookshelf. Okay, is that enough rambling about kids' books? Can we get started on the tag now? I'm I'm so pleased that there is a thing called Read Across America Day, and it extends into like Read Across America Week. I'm so glad that such a thing exists, that we can encourage kids and young adults and each other to read more books. We can recommend different types of books to each other. I mean, how many of you out there knew there was a kid's book called The Lonely Parrot before I just showed it to you? If you're in the bird community, you may have heard of it. But other than that, I mean, how many of you knew that book existed, right? And that's why I have this channel. And it's the joy and the greatness of having something like Read Across America Day. Okay, let's start this tag. Have I rambled enough about that? Okay, let's start this tag. The I Am a Reader tag. This originated, with Penguin Random House. And I saw this most recently at Aaron Facer's channel. He had done this in, I think, late February, mid-February. And I was like, oh, hey, that's a good tag. So let's start with prompt number 1. Choose one word that describes being a reader. And I'm going to go with escapist or escapism. For me, being a reader is getting to escape for a little while. When you dive into a book that's in another world or in another place, you just get to leave the place that you're in for a little while. Escapism. Escape. All right, number 2, what's the very first book you fell in love with? And we're going back to children's books again, you guys. And I have 3 over here. I brought 3 because I couldn't narrow it down to just one. And these 3 aren't probably the right 3. Okay, so the first one I fell in love with was probably 101 Animal Stories. Let's see, it's a golden book, 101 Animal Stories. This thing, as you can see, it's a nice thick book of 101 stories. And of course, it's animal stories. And this is, for little kids. It started out, my parents and my grandparents would read stories from this book to me as I was learning how to read, right? This book is ancient, okay? There's one in here about Priscilla the caterpillar, which is a little poem, which is like my favorite poem ever, next to T.S. Eliot, right? Yeah. Okay, so there's that one. And then there's Miss Jaster's Garden. And this is going to have a huge glare. So let me see what I can do about the glare. Here you go. Miss Jaster's Garden. I want you to see this pretty book, right? I'm just going to wave it around at the camera. There we go. And story and pictures by N.M. Bodecker. This is a story of a woman, an elderly woman, who she puts her garden together, and there's a little hedgehog sleeping in the garden when she's putting the garden together. And so she rakes the garden and she rakes across the hedgehog, and he's asleep, and it feels like someone is just scratching his back. And she throws the seeds into the garden, and so the seeds land on his back, and he ends up growing part of her garden in his quills. Yeah. It's adorable and cute. Yeah, I fell in love with that story when I was a kid. And then, of course, Beverly Cleary's The Mouse and the Motorcycle. Glare, huge glare. There you go. Get the huge glare off of it. There we go, that one. This is not my original copy. This one I had to purchase a little bit later. I don't know what happened to my original copy. Who knows? Those 2 books, those 2 little children's books, those are my original copy from when I was a little kid. This one is not my original copy. I don't know I don't know where I got this from, but it belonged to someone named Chris Hill, because Chris Hill has their name written in the front of it. But this is one of the first chapter books I read. This one and Take Care of Dexter, one of the first chapter books I ever read. Yeah. Okay. We beat that question to death. Question number 3, hardcovers or paperbacks? And I have answered this question in a couple different tags, and same answer. It depends on where and how I'm reading the book. I love to have hardcover editions of books because they're so lovely, and they're like collectible, and they look nice on the shelf, and they're just real nice, right? If it's a first edition of a book, well, yeah, I want it in hardcover. Of course I do. If it's signed by the author, of course I want it to be hardcover if possible, right? But if I'm going to be taking that thing on a plane, if I'm going to be carrying it in a suitcase, if I'm going to be taking like 3 or 4 books, I would like to take the paperbacks. That way, if they get scuffed or something, it's not a big deal. They're not as heavy, etc. Y'all get it. Okay, there you go. Question number 4. Has reading shaped your identity? Oh, yeah. Yeah, reading and writing have definitely. Yeah. Yes. Look at me. I have a channel about reading. Okay. Number 5. What book do you read when you need to be comforted? And you guys, again, this depends. Um, it depends on what I'm needing to be comforted from. Like if there's like a loss, if I'm grieving, if I'm like in a state of high anxiety, which seems to be a lot lately. Okay. So it depends. Jane Eyre, y'all knew that was going to be an answer to something in this list, right? I mean, Jane Eyre is one of those books that I know it so well, and the characters are a comfort to me. I love the characters so much that if something is, going on in life, I can return to Jane Eyre and just pick up the book, and anywhere in the book, I don't even have to start at the beginning and read it through. I can turn to any place in the book and just dive back into that world, dive back into, well, hopefully not Lowood. Don't necessarily want to go to Lowood, but I can dive into excuse me, the estate. I can go back to Thornfield Hall. I can even go to oh my gosh, St. John Rivers. I can go to his place. I can go, wherever, and just relax with the characters, right? Also, it's going to sound very self-centered, very egotistical, but my own books, but specifically Choices Meant for Gods. If I'm in just a crazy place in the real world, in real life, it is comforting to go and just dive into Choices Meant for Gods. And anywhere in the book, I can just dive in, and I'm in the world of Unveiled, and I'm with those characters, and I can just, it's like I'm just having a conversation with my friends, right? Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move on to question number 6. Who taught you to be a reader, or did you do it all on your own? I did not do it on my own. I wrote down here my mom, Aunt B, and Grandpa. Because when I was a little kid, my dad was in the Air Force, and I was mostly, we were in Southern Illinois. Sorry, guys, I just bumped the table. We were in Southern Illinois a lot, my mom and my Aunt B. We lived with my Aunt B for a little while Dad was overseas, and they were teaching me to read. And the book, Dick and Jane, y'all remember that? I don't know if everyone had, well, not everyone had the same version I did, but it was this, it was like a paperback book. It was gray, and it had, see Dick run, see Jane run, see Spot run, right? Go Spot go. I mean, that was the book I was learning how to read with, right? And my grandpa was helping me with that. And also I wrote down Little Red Caboose and the Little Red Hen from those little golden books. My grandpa would read those to me, and I was learning how to read with those books, and I loved it, right? I mean, my family was teaching me how to read. And I remember Grandpa had his favorite chair in the living room, and I would sit next to him in that chair. I would be like nestled right up against him in that chair, and we'd be reading these books together. That's an awesome way to teach someone how to read. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I was taught to be a reader. I guess well, the question is probably asking who taught you to be a reader. They taught me to read, but I think because it was family who loved me, teaching me how to read, and like the experience of being in the chair, sitting next to Grandpa with, his arm around me and the books, and learning to read. I think that taught me to be a reader because I loved it. And also, my great-grandmother, this is a bit rambling, isn't it, you guys? My great-grandmother had stacks of books in her apartment. Stacks of books, you guys. Like, she had Well, she also had a favorite chair. She had her favorite chair in her living room, and she had books on the table next to the chair. She had books stacked up next to the chair. She had books on her bookshelves, of course, bookshelves plural, and she would be reading all the time. She would crochet, and when her hands were tired, she would read. She was always reading, always reading. So my family taught me to be a reader. Question number 7. Number 7, describe your dream reading lounge. You guys, I have no clue. It just has to be warm enough that I'm not cold, because I'm always cold. I need a soft, cushy chair, and I would like soft, directable light. This is the sign for directable. Directable, like so I can move the light around. I don't like strong overhead light. In fact, this house that I live in, there are no overhead lights. Oh no, that's a lie. That's a lie. There's overhead lighting in the bathroom, which I'm hoping to remodel, and that's harsh. But the rest, yeah, it's. Oh no, there's overhead light in the. Okay, scratch that whole part. There is overhead lighting in this house. Yeah, huh? Yeah, there is some. Interesting. Wonder why I didn't. You guys, I'm insane. Let's move on. So my dream reading lounge would have lights that I can like set somewhere and direct and move, because I don't care for harsh overhead lighting. Jeez, I only live here. Question number 8. What book changed the way you act or see the world? Um, Only the Paranoid Survive by Andrew S. Grove. Yeah. When I worked at a magazine in Kansas City, the fella who owned the magazine, his name was Bill Neely, and he recommended that book to me. And boy, yeah, good book. Only the Paranoid Survive. Also, the Little House on the Prairie series, that whole series by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I read that book. I read that series when I was in like junior high age range. Well, I read it before. My cousins, yeah, family again, my cousins gave me a couple of the Little House books for Christmases, okay, over a couple of years. And then but that was, I'm having trouble emitting words, you guys. My cousins gave me some of the Little House books for Christmas presents when I was in grade school. But I remember reading the entire series when I got up to like junior high. Like I had managed to collect them all by junior high. Does that make more sense? I'm having trouble getting through this tag, you guys. So the Little House on the Prairie series changed the way I view the world and the way I react to things in the world, just because, I mean, those people, my God, what they had to go through, the things they had to do to survive, and like then change to survive. Yeah. Yeah, there's an awful lot. I have many phrases I say that I recognize as coming from the Little House series, not the TV show series, but the book series. Although I enjoyed the TV series too. Yeah, there you go. So, what book changed the way you act or see the world? Only the Paranoid Survive, and the entire Little House on the Prairie series. You guys, we made it through the tag. Boy, it was getting a little rough there, wasn't it? Sorry, I ramble. Please subscribe to the channel for more rambling. Thumbs up for Read Across America Day, Read Across America Week, and the I Am a Reader tag. I'm a reader, and I encourage you to read too. Thanks so much, you guys.